Hey guys, this is Jannike and I'm sitting here with Kenneth Sørensen, who is a speaker, he's an author, he's Danish, and he is a psychotherapist. And he's quite known in Denmark for his work, and he's also one of my speakers for my new platform on Wisdom from North. And Kenneth, I wanted to make this video today to talk about subpersonalities, because I know that is something you know a lot about, also in your own story, how you struggled within yourself with a lot of subpersonalities, and how you now have come to a point where you have the still point, you feel a more wholeness. And I can just recognize in myself that I have many parts that are very contradicting inside of me. Like one part can be, for instance, very social, love to be with people and love to shine and love to, be extrovert and being seen. And another part wants to hide and charge batteries and be alone and not be seen at all. And I've been wondering, so who is me, right? And I know that I'm all these parts, but sometimes they can seem very polarizing. And maybe you can feel the same, that you have different aspects of you that are not kind of in sync or collaborating in a way.
Absolutely.
So what are your perspectives on subpersonalities?
Well, Jannike, this is a huge question because it's so large a topic. But to start out, it's obvious for everybody that we have many different voices within, and very often the personality is not a harmonious whole. We have all types of conflicting voices, conflicting impulses, conflicting desires. Some part of us wants to take new challenges. Another part of us is afraid and wants just security and comfort. So the whole question about subpersonality is that we have these different parts of us that has been developed throughout our lives. And actually we can discriminate between 4 different types of subpersonalities, and we cannot go into all of them because it's a huge topic. But the most important one is the subpersonalities related to the different ages of our history. We have the infant, we have the child, we have the teenager, we have the young adults, we have the grown-up, we have the old man, if you are on my age. So on all these different stages of ages, we have identified with different types of roles, and they all live within us. So that's why when I'm in the world, I can sometimes feel my inner child coming up if I'm confronted with something that is perhaps threatening for my security. And I think the most important thing is to start to realize that I'm not all these voices. I'm actually the one who is capable of observing them, observing the different types of behavior within me. And there's also another type of subpersonalities related to all our relationships. All the prominent relationships we have had throughout time is still living within us. Our inner father, our inner mother, and our inner former lovers, our siblings. So we have this multitude of introverted personalities. There's an image within me of my inner mother. And the strange thing is that this inner mother within me believes she is the outer mother. So she acts and behaves within me as though she was the outer mother. So that's why sometimes I experience that if I have not worked with this, I get in conflict with my mother's values or my father's values when I'm going to act from my own values. And this is part of what we are working with in psychotherapy, to start to disengage or to disidentify from all those inner relationships that is still influencing us. if we have had some kind of a bully around us that has told us that we are nothing worth, then we both have the inner bully and the victim inside of us. And they are still living as though the past is still the present. So it's really a menage inside of us. And then we have also the subpersonality related to our former lives, earlier incarnations, still living in us. And then we have all the archetypical based subpersonality related to different ideas. So if you have been very interested in a Superman or Batman or something, and identified with Superman and Batman, then you will have an inner Superman and Batman within you that is influencing your subconscious behavior. So it's a huge subject, and it all starts out with finding a point of reference, finding a place within where you can start observing all those reactions, because we experience these subpersonality through our inner reactions to circumstances. And sometimes when we are in some environment, some subpersonalities comes up, or if we are confronted with another type of person. I remember vividly that I once had our psychotherapist and in come a new client, and he was a doctor within psychiatry, and I immediately had a reaction of anxiety. I was very afraid of this man. He was really stern, very unemotional, and very mental, and it was inhibiting my free expression as a psychotherapy. And I knew I had to work on this. So I went into supervision, and we worked to find out why did that client influence me like that? And of course, it was a child element in me who projected father on this figure, because there were some similarities in his approach. But in order to discover all these different subpersonalities, we have to go inside and start observing and start accepting all the different voices we have within, but also find the subpersonalities that are false. Because if we have been around a bully, and the bully has told us repeatedly, "You're stupid, you're stupid, you're stupid," then I start identifying with being stupid. And this is a false identification. But it's a voice within me, a pattern within me that I have to discover, identify, disidentify from, accept, but also change in order not to be ruled or dominated by this subpersonality. So the concept of subpersonalities also opening up how to liberate ourselves from all these voices. How do we become whole? How do we make them a collective whole that collaborate? And we have to find authentic roles. We have to play roles in life. But in order for the roles to be authentic, we have to qualify the roles with what we believe is true qualities, true values. And for instance, when I became a dad, it was very difficult because I didn't know who am I as a dad? Right. What will it say? So, and of course, I repeated some of the behavior from my own dad and from the whole male generations within my family. And I'm very different from my family. So I really had to take charge of this and find out for myself who was I as a dad. And I remember vividly that I had so much bad conscience around being a dad. I felt very inadequate. I felt very not good enough in that role. And then I had a therapy where I talked with my inner dad, and suddenly I had this image of a mother in the 60s and a father from the 60s, and the father was smoking a pipe and polishing his Volvo and a very material father. And I suddenly realized that I was identified with a 60, a father figure from the 60s. And this was a really liberating moment for me, because I knew that it's impossible for me to live up to that type of stereotype and cultural-based image of a father figure. I have to find my own way to be a father. And I struggled with this for some years, and then more and more I came into accepting my version of a good father, and what type of qualities I authentically identify with as a father. And we have to do that in all areas, also as a man, also as what type of teacher do I want to be? What type of psychotherapist do I want to be? And they are all roles, but we can make them authentic roles, because the roles are masks we wear and which we express through, because our true being is consciousness. Our true being is loving consciousness and will. But we have, when we express in the world, we have to express through all these different roles and make sure that they are an authentic expressions of who we are. And it's a continual development up through the years to really bring that soul consciousness through and through the different personas that we act through.
I think it's so interesting, because I'm noticing with myself, with starting a new platform now, that I'm looking for an answer on how to do it. I'm looking for the recipe all the time in my head. I'm like, so how am I supposed to do this task? How am I supposed to do that? And then I'm thinking, well, I haven't seen this been done before, Janneke, so you have to go inside and use your creativity. The answer is not there. And I can ask many people, and it's still my project, so I have to figure it out. And I feel like it's the same with becoming a father or a mother, or doing something new, a new relationship. There is no, this is the way you're going to do it. But that's what we usually do. We go on autopilot. We see how others are doing it, and we're doing it the same way. And that's the way we usually live life, just going on autopilot, reacting to situations instead of responding. But when awareness comes in, you actually have to observe, so how would I like to do it? But that's, the real work, and that's the process. And you have to discover, how is it like being a mother for me? How is natural for me to be? And I think it has to do with stopping a bit,
Absolutely.
Reflecting, and the awareness and noticing. So is my mother coming in now saying, you should do this? That's her way of doing it. Or, so it's all back to awareness.
And I think there's a couple of steps when we discover a part of us that is inauthentic. That's, we can see this part of me I have inherited from my past or from the outside. There's different types of steps. The first is to be aware of it, and brings the light of consciousness to it, study it, and by that also disidentifying from it, taking a step back. But disidentifying and looking at it as the observer is not enough. We also have to accept it, because we cannot work with a part we don't accept. And sometimes it is really hard to accept it, because it's not all nice stuff we have inside. It really takes a big heart to embrace the most vulnerable or perhaps destructive parts of us, the demons inside. So the next level is acceptance. When we can hold, or when we can accept or embrace that part of us, then we have created some kind of a space where we can start to be creative with it. We can start to talk with it, speak to it,
Speak with the personality?
Yes, exactly. We can have an inner dialogue. And sometimes I have sit in front of my computer if I had a very stubborn or a pattern that has been very difficult to change. Then I've asked my inner subpersonality, how are you doing now? Okay, I'm very angry. Okay, why are you angry? So I have a dialogue between me as the observer and the subpersonality. And through that dialogue, and it's very important to be very honest about it, and really listen to the answers and what type of needs.
And not judging it.
And not judging, exactly. And when we come into, we differentiate between what a subpersonality wants, its immediate behavior, and what it really needs. Very often a subpersonality need love, but it say, I want revenge. Right. So we are not giving into the revenge impulse, but we are giving into the deeper need of love. So we also have to analyze and penetrate into the core of the subpersonality. And when we meet the innermost need of a subpersonality, it starts to change. It's not necessary for us to take revenge in order to have an experience of love. We can have that experience without being destructive towards ourselves or others. So this is actually a very, very deep process where we change the subpersonality from the core. And actually part of the training that I received is that every subpersonality carries a light. It has a light within because it's created out from my light nature. And it can be very dark and destructive on the surface. But when we penetrate into the core of the subpersonality, we actually find a light. And to name that light, it can be truth, it can be love, it can be wisdom, it can be warrior, it can be you can also call it an archetype. There's a divine archetype within even the most destructive part of us. So finding into that divine light is the way to really reveal the true nature of that subpersonality.
I love how you just map that out, like from the beginning, from the awareness. What was after the awareness? Acceptance, right? Because, I have at least felt, I cannot say with you, but sometimes I've been so angry, that if I would speak to that personality, it would be like, yeah, I wanted to hit her. I was so angry, I wanted to hit her. But of course I don't do that, but then not judging that was the impulse, not putting it under the carpet that, no, I don't want to hit anybody. Yeah. I don't have that inside. Yes, there is a part of me inside. And I listened to one of a podcast that you did where you spoke about that we all have this villain inside or this darkness that also needs to be acknowledged. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, you could say that everybody has a potential for wreaking havoc in the world. We all have a dangerous part, but it's not everybody that is connected with it or has done any investigation into it, because it really frightens us. But it's part of the human nature. And we carry a long evolution where we had to fight with dinosaurs and wild animals and very primitive societies. And at that time, we really need to fight for our lives. And we still have this impulse to kill within us. Everybody has. And now the first job I had when I was 70, I joined the army. And I was 5 years in the army, and it really taught me a lot about these destructive energies, learning to shoot, learning to kill. This is actually what you learn as a soldier. Learning to fire the battle tanks and learning to engage in combat in different situations is really tuning you into that destructive potential. And I think that if you're not in connection with that part of you, it will actually at some point destroy you, because you will be afraid of yourself. You will be afraid of that part of you. But if you really has opened your heart for that part of you too, then you will know that it is not necessary to bring it out, because it is some kind of a figure or an energy within you you only use when you are threatened on your life or something that you take care of.
But is it right to compare this when there is a bug or something and we're just like, or what is it called, VEPs? I don't know what is it called in English. This small bug that is sticking you. A bee, not a bee, but a Webster. Okay, I'll find it. But when you're like, oh, it's so annoying, and then you kill it, and just like, I mean, we do kill.
It's aggression.
Right.
But there's also a deeper, we just have the ability to kill and to bring death. That's part of being a human nature. We have the ability to bring death. And a good way to bring death is to release and let go of habits within that we no longer use. If you have some kind of attachment to something that is very bad for you, it's really a good idea to say, I will not do that anymore. And it's some kind of a death energy that you can use. But also, if you are confronted in the city at night, then if you have access to that destructive part of you, you can express it through the eye. That if somebody comes and threatens you with hitting you, and you can express that power, the people will know, I'm getting in trouble if I fuck with this person, because you can bring it out, and it will give you a security and a power, and also a humbleness, because you know that I have something inside of me that is potential very dangerous. So when you look at people who cannot control it, you know that
they haven't owned it.
No, they haven't owned it. They are slaves of that force. So they get into gang violence or abuse of all types of in all manners of ways.
And I was just thinking of I am, that we have everything inside of us. We have potential to do anything, and just to accept that, to own that, and not put ourselves over other people, like I could never do that. Well, there's a part of you who might, if you were in the right or the same shoes, you could have done it. And that's honesty. And then we make a choice who we want to be. But knowing and accepting that that's human.
We could actually call it's the archetype of the inner warrior. And the inner warrior in its pure essence is good. We need an inner warrior. But it can, when we don't owe it, and or if it in the shadows, then the warrior become a demon. Right. And it really can do a lot of damage.
Right. I was just thinking about your story too, that you've been searching a lot yourself, and you were in the military. You were really in contact with that side, masculine, and you also said that you've had this mask on. You were very vulnerable inside, but the outside was really hard. And then you felt like you went into school, and then you met these people that were totally different. It was this cultural shock, and then you started opening up to spirituality. Can you share a little bit about what changed?
I come from a very traditional working class background, and lived a very ordinary life, but was quite unhappy because there was not much in that environment that could really stimulate or see who I am and who I consider myself to be today. But so I was very lonely and almost had no friends for many, many years. It was first until my 17 or 18 years of age that I started to have friends, and my first friends was I found them in the military. I always knew that I was not able to have a a long life within the military. It was part of what brought me out to my other types of work. But I had 5 good years then. And then I had a big depression after I was left by my first girlfriend. And I went into some kind of a depressive stage for some years until I discovered that I was able to move from the city into Copenhagen, and there I found something in Denmark called high school, a folk high school, where it was 3 months where you lived and you could study astrology and study psychology, all types of exciting things. And at that place, I found a totally different types of people, left-wing oriented, and I was quite right-wing, I was very tough and was, I didn't like how I was then, but it really changed me, and it opened me up to, first of all, it opened me up to an awareness that I was really fucked up as a person. I was so vulnerable. I was not able to express myself. I had this, image of being John Wayne or something like that. That old Hollywood movie star that is very conservative and harsh. A Clint Eastwood type of person was my ideal model. And then when I started to open up to spirituality, I became the absolute opposite. I became so vulnerable. Everything was about love, and I became, this new age guy in pink dresses. And
really?
Yes, really. I went to
I didn't know.
An extreme for some years.
Right.
I really needed to go out and explore that. And then at some point, I found a middle way between these extremes. So I have had many different personalities through my life, from the soldier to the social advocate. I worked 10 years with mentally ill people and helped starting a big magazine where they wrote their own stories and so. And then later I became the theosophist, and later I became the psychotherapist. And so I had many different types or personality types coming out throughout my life.
But you've also practiced meditation for 30 years. I'm pretty impressed. 1 hour every day, and that has helped you found that inner point.
It was out of utter necessity. I had so much pain and so much self-hate towards myself. So I just have to find a way to lift this dark clouds and this atmosphere of despair. It was really hard for me to be with people and to have a conversation because I was so vulnerable. There were so many wounds within. But meditation helped me to find a place within where there was a gentleness and a kindness and a self-love. It started there. So meditation has, I would say, saved my life, and a lot of psychotherapy too. And actually this has been perhaps the most authentic part of my life, this continually urge to transform myself or to bring that light and love through my persona. And it's still a huge work. I still go in psychotherapy, I still meditate, because I just know, and that's for all of us, that we have so much love and light and power within that wants to express through us, but we need to do the work and create ourselves anew, create new personality, new abilities to express a different aspect of us.
And I love that we can always change, because I feel like we have been taught the opposite, that we are like we are. Just we cannot change. And yes, it's difficult to change because it demands awareness, it demands practice, but it is possible, and people have been doing it before. And we see that how some people really change and find this still point, this happiness. All the restlessness can dissipate after meditating, for instance, or finding something else. And I love what you're doing in the fall on my new platform. You're really going into how we can observe ourselves, how we are not our emotions, we are not our thoughts, we're not our bodies, and how we can let that soul energy come through. And also you give us 2 meditations there that you've been doing for 30 years, and that has really helped you. So I'm excited about that. And if you want to know more and follow up on the new platform, not to miss anything, you can sign up for my newsletter. All right, it was delightful to speak with you.
Thank you.
You have so much wisdom to share, Kenneth, and you just came out with a book on 7 personality types, and that's coming out in English very soon.
Yes.
So we're excited about that. So thank you so much, and good luck with your work.
Thank you. Bye-bye.